Hey everyone, Revan here, and welcome back to episode 12 of StoneBlock 2, where today we're going to get our real power on. So sit back, enjoy the video, and let's see what we can't get done. Alright, now as we've mentioned a few times in the past, this pack is going to require an obscene amount of RF. Basically, I shouldn't say basically, well, for the sole reason of creating balanced clay. So if we look up balanced clay here, if I can spell. All right, so in order to craft this stuff, we are going to need, what is this? Million, billion, almost 4 trillion RF per balanced clay. And we need about 400 of these guys in order to complete our big spender quest right here. Now, the only way to really touch that amount of power in this pack would be to either, completely mine out all of the stone in the world and fill everything with extreme reactors and then just live with, our 1 frame per second. But yeah, I think I'm going to pass on that. Now, what we can do is we can get into steam turbine generators from Mekanism. The only issue with that is it takes quite a lot to get those things fully up and running. And once they're, you've gotten like max pass through of steam and everything, I think you can generate just about 220 million RF per tick per max size generator. Now, in order to produce that much steam, we are actually going to need to create a Mekanism fusion reactor, which is a little bit tricky in this pack solely for the reason that we have to create the fuel, the hard way. And when I say the hard way, I mean the way that it was designed to. So we're going to have to make thermal evaporation towers, which is kind of what I got these rooms set up for here, in order to make brine and then turn that brine into lithium and then turn that lithium into deuterium and tritium, which we can then combine into DT fuel. So, which is a little bit backwards if you if you ask me about it. But so yeah, we are going to set this area up here with 4 of the full-size thermal evaporation towers and see how much brine we can produce from that. And then these guys over here will have 4 towers set up for turning that brine into lithium. Also, I did set up a couple salt chickens that I have going into a chemical oxidizer, and then that's pushing that into a rotary condensator because the salt is being turned into gaseous brine, and then the rotary condensator is turning that into just liquid brine. So we've accumulated about 4 million buckets worth of brine, but once we start up our reactor and start pulling all the lithium that we're going to be making from these evaporation towers over here, that 4 million is not going to last very long. So what I might have to do is set up one of these guys for each one of our thermal evaporators that we have back here, just to kind of supplement the lithium that we're not getting the brine that we're not getting from these guys. But as far as setting these guys up, they're, I don't want to say relatively simple, but they're not difficult to make. So if you check in Mekanism and then go thermal, there's a few things that we're going to need. We're going to need the evaporation block, which is just essentially going to be the shell of the build. A couple ports, which will be either pumping liquids into or taking liquids out of. And then our thermal evaporation controller. Now, there is another piece that we can add to this to try to speed up the whole process. And that would be a heater to kind of to help these guys go. Now, in a normal overworld, we would put solar panels on top of these guys to kind of help their process along. But since we're in this StoneBlock 2 pack where everything is stone, we don't have sunshine. So we can't actually use the solar panels. So we are kind of forced into having to use the heaters, which take RF. So I'm just hoping that our little reactor we have over there, sorry for constantly going in and out of night vision, that just kind of seems to be the downfall flying up and down in here. But yeah, so hopefully that'll give us enough power. So let's see about getting these guys started here. We are going to need some steel and copper, which we should have more than enough of. And then controllers, What are we missing here? Oh, we're missing some of these advanced circuits. So we'll just pull these from our EMC system over here. There we go. Just toss those guys in there. And then 1, 2. We'll just throw these in there. So we're going to need 4 to start with. And then ports. We're going to need a port for water. And we're going to need a port for taking the brine out. And then we're also going to need a port for putting the heat in. So just grab these guys. So what was that going to be? 12, I think. All right. So we should probably also grab a wand to make the build a little bit easier here. Now, the max size of these, I believe, is 18 blocks high. So I just kind of have these cobblestone down here to kind of mark out where I wanted to place them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And then we can just make a quick ring around this guy right here. So we're at 2, 3, and 18. And I'm hoping the stone above doesn't actually interrupt with anything, but we don't actually need a top on that. Then we can just pop our controller right in here. And then we're going to have to toss a port in the back here. Find our ports. There we go. So we will feed water in through here. And I suppose we can just use this port right here to take the brine out, and then we can actually run that underneath over here, because I'm actually going to have the Mekanism reactor set up over in here, and this area right here is going to be for the steam turbine. And if we happen to need 2 of them, well, we have enough room on this wall, and then once everything is built, I can kind of make things look pretty. All right, so the next part that we're going to need, if I can find this, is going to be the heater. And I believe it's called the resistive heater. So we're going to need a superheating element, some tin, energy tablets. There we go. Oh, these guys don't want to stack. So we'll just toss that in there for now. So the heater, where do we want to put this? We can actually put this a little bit higher up. It doesn't actually have to be at the base level. It can be anywhere in this build. So I guess we'll put this guy right here with a port here, and then we can just toss the heater over here. And I think both of these guys are going to be used to take the heat out. Now, in order to get that heat, we're going to have to use a special type of piping, and that's going to be our thermodynamic conductors here. So if we just make a stack of these, we should be able to run you up and out and over to the actual evaporation chamber here. Okay, so it turns out I made a bit of a mistake. It's actually a 4x4 multi-block, not a 5x5. So let's just try this again. Run all of this guys up. There we go. That should fit up there. Now, if we look at our controller, it is formed. So yeah, we had a little bit of an issue there, but we recovered. Let's see here. We need these guys. So we need a hole here, a port here for the water, and then we need a port here for our heat. Now, if we take our there it is, our basic thermal, and that should actually connect now. Let's clear up a little bit of our inventory here. There we go. And we don't need these. And then we'll just, there we go. Now when we take water and run it into this, we can find our servo here. if we come over to the center here, you can see our temperature is 300,000, right? And we are producing very, very low amounts of brine here. But once we grab ourselves a point, here we go. We can just come up to this guy, choose our network, say disable, and we'll chunk load. Disable limit. So this guy is using 40 RF a tick, and it's producing 300,000 heat. So our heat should now be a little bit more stabilized, and we should be increasing our production of brine. Now we can add more of these resistive heaters on. So if we wanted to do one more here, let's grab a couple more of our thermal conductors. There we go. And we can configure this guy again. There we go. So now, without doing anything else, let's see what that did. All right, so I shot our heat up a little bit here, and our heat is continuing to climb. But we can actually improve that even more if we come over and we grab some alloys from Mekanism. So we'll just grab all of them to upgrade our pipes here. So if you just click the pipes with the alloy itself, it'll upgrade, and I think it'll do 8 per. So like the closest 8 will get upgraded. As you can see, it kind of stopped here. So just upgrade those, and there. Now we are fully upgraded, and if we come over to our heat here, we are doing a little bit better production. We are producing 2 millibuckets per tick, and our water seems to be keeping up. It's increasing. So that's one of the main things that we're going to have to watch. If our water input is not keeping up with how fast we're producing brine, then we are going to have to look to increase this. Now, I did kind of play around with this, and I started with an entire stack of sinks per black hole tank, and I found my production was actually significantly lower than if I just had 10. So I think that has something to do with the super laminar flux ducts that I have, or the fact that the retriever here was kind of maxed out. But yeah, so I'm just keeping these here. I have about 28 million buckets of water in each one of these, so we should have a decent reserve, and we can always add more on if we need it. And with the magic of a nice little editing cut there, we have made another 4 of our evaporation towers. We've also run a ultimate mechanical pipe all the way underground, leading from these guys, which are making the brine, over to these towers, which are going to be producing our lithium. So all we really need to do is hook these guys up. So if I just hook these guys up like this, and then I'll obviously have to say, hey, I want you guys to input and I want the other guys to output. So let's grab our configurator, and if we just shift click, we'll change those to input, and then we can just click twice and export the brine from our towers here. There we go. Let's just grab our hand here and see what we're looking at. So our brine is now gone. We are not producing any extra, and I highly doubt that these 4 towers are going to keep these guys up and running. But as you can see, we are producing liquid lithium. It is fairly slow. We did manage to get our temp up. I'm not 100% sure if these resistive heaters are actually working, because I'm not showing any RF gain in here, which, I mean, 16,000 I should be maxing out, considering it's only using 40 RF per tick here. So I'm hoping that's just a visual bug and not my actual system. Otherwise, I'm probably, limiting myself quite a bit here. But we have gotten only about 5 buckets of lithium so far. So yeah, it's going to take a lot. We're definitely going to have to beef up these evaporation towers over here with more brine so that we can try to keep up. because if I try to run a Mekanism fusion reactor with that little amount of lithium, it's going to fail on me, or I'm not going to be able to keep it at a very high fuel input. So, and I'm looking to get as close to maxed out as possible. So for all I know, I might have to build another 4 of these guys and just have an entire room full of chickens. But I'm not really sure just as of yet. But what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to breed a bunch of these guys up and essentially extend this room over here to have probably this same amount of chickens that I have here for each one of these towers, and then start pumping this brine into the extra brine into the towers, and hope that that makes a difference here, because we are going to need a whole heck of a lot of lithium to even hope to get up to our 220 million RF a tick. So let me clear some more room, breed up a bunch more chickens, and bring you guys back when I have that set up. So after a little bit of work, a little bit of digging, I did manage to set up some more chickens in here. I'm not 100% if this is going to be enough. I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on this, and yeah, I am burning through way more salt than I am producing. So I'm probably going to have to at least double the size of this because I am just barely keeping up with filling these guys up. But I think what my plan is I'm going to kind of let this sit for a couple hours and see if I can't, if it doesn't like regulate itself. And we're back. So I let these guys sit for a few hours, and by sit I mean I kind of played with it around with things. As you can see here, I added on a whole lot more of these rotary condensators and chemical oxidizers here, because the chickens, well, yeah, we have like 58,000 of the salt. So the chickens are producing way faster than these guys can process. So they're all fully upgraded with 8 of the speed and 8 of the energy. So as you can see, 8, and then we also have the muffling on it. So this room is just not completely unacceptable. I did play around with these guys, so I will make a little bit of a claim here. I made a mistake before. I actually had the thermodynamic conductors going on both sides because, you know, I'm super intelligent and I thought that would, you know, do something. So it turns out you need one of those sides for energy. So this flex point right here wasn't actually powering these guys. So these guys were never actually running. So I kind of set them all at different levels. I started with this one at, I think it was, we should probably come over here first. So I set these guys at, I think 1,000, and then 500, and then 250, and then this guy was set to like 150 or something like that. And just wanted to see, you know, which ones would actually fully heat these guys up. And I kind of determined the magic number is something. So I have these guys at 125 and they're maintaining full temperature. So these guys are at 250, this guy's at 300, and this guy's at 300. As you can see, I'm still kind of playing around with it. But the one all the way down here, which is set the lowest at 125 RF per tick, is still maintaining full temperature. So I can probably drop the rest of them, because although, you know, I am making 100,000 RF per tick right now, I'm kind of pushing the limits with all of the machines and stuff that I'm adding. So if I can save on energy, you know, I figure why not? And then I did the same thing for these guys. What I did was I came over here and said, okay, so each one of these towers is producing 300 millibuckets per tick, meaning that if we wanted to keep pace with that, we would have to produce about 30 millibuckets per tick. So because the brine, 10 millibuckets of brine turns into 1 millibucket of liquid lithium. So, you know, obviously 300 divided by 10 is 30. So I kind of played around with these heaters back here and found out 100 RF per tick keeps us right above 30 millibuckets per tick. And the part that's kind of confusing me is that I have all of these guys running and it's producing It's hard to say, but it looks like it's about 400 buckets per tick. And that's, we're burning through that. So, optimally, I would like to have these guys always full of brine, mainly because of the fact that I don't ever have to worry about something happening and, running out and not knowing what my production rate is. If I have an overflow of brine, then I at least know what these guys are always going to be producing. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is tearing this wall out back here and at least building another 4 of these guys, maybe another 8, to try to supplement the brine that we're going through. But as of right now, we have collected, let's see, what are we at? About 40 million buckets of liquid lithium. And I'm kind of curious to know where that's going to take us as far as the reactor is concerned. So I kind of want to set up the reactor real quick and just kind of get that thing turned on and see how much fuel it actually is going to burn through and kind of play around with the numbers a little bit. So come next episode, I can tell you guys, okay, if I want to run this thing at full bore, realistically, I'm going to need X amount of brine towers, X amount of lithium towers, and we can kind of go from there. Because as of right now, all I can really tell you is I am producing about 120 millibuckets per tick of liquid lithium. Now, in order to build the reactor, I am going to have to place it kind of like right here for now, mainly because, like I said, it's going to be, our steam turbine is going to be right here, and we're going to have the reactor actually touching directly to the turbine because I want the port where the steam is going to be going in to coincide with where the port is on the reactor. So in order to make the Mekanism reactor, so there's a few blocks we're going to need. Obviously, we're going to need a controller. We're going to need a bunch of frames, some ports. The logic adapter, I don't think we're going to need. Block that can be used to allow basic monitoring of the reactor using redstone. Yeah, we shouldn't really need that. So the ports are just like the ports on the thermal evaporation towers. They'll take pretty much anything. So we can put liquids in or gases in. We can or pull energy out. We can put water in for cooling it, that kind of thing. So let's see. We're going to need to get started here with a bunch of these steel casings. So let's just make up a bunch so we have them on stock, on standby. And let's see. Let's grab a bunch of the reactor frames. So let's grab some more atomic alloys. I don't know what I just dropped there. Let's grab you guys having EMC. I love it. Toss all of you in. All right. And we'll just grab a bunch of these reactor frames. We won't need this many, but, having some extras is nice. And then we'll get a little bit fancy in some areas and put some glass on. So the controller, we're going to need ultimate control circuits, which are just going to be elite control circuits. We don't need too many of them. We only needed 1, I believe, right? Yeah, no, of course. 2, we need a basic tank. I always kind of keep these in my inventory. A lot of times, like certain parts of Mekanism, it doesn't want to register it and it won't pull it up. So like you saw that with your reaction chamber earlier, it didn't want to go into even though I had it in my inventory, it didn't want to count it as a crafting item. All right, let's grab some of these ports here. We're going to need at least 1 for the steam. We'll grab 2 for the fuel, and we'll grab 2 just to be case for putting water in, and we'll have 1 for taking power out. All right, now building this reactor is actually, it looks kind of complicated, but it's really not that bad. So we can just say that we're going to place this right here. So the reactor is 5 blocks wide, and I think it's 5 blocks tall as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to essentially just build a 3x3 with one block sticking off on each side, and you're going to copy that for every single side. So we don't have to really worry about the blocks or the ports just yet. We'll just put these guys in, and then we'll kind of poke holes where we want holes. And then we are just going to take you and you, and just pop these guys out so that we can actually put the reactor frames in here, because the outside does need to be frames. So we'll just make a plus sign. I kind of found that the easiest way to do this is just kind of with this plus sign design here. That way you're not switching between blocks quite as often. So we can do that. There we go. And then one on the top. And then the top, we just have to leave the center clear because that is where our controller is going to go. Right here, we are going to need to put a laser focus, and that's going to be to start the laser, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And so ports. I want, let's say this guy right here is going to be our steam ports. Toss you down and you down. There we go. And then I'm going to have a port here for fuel. Actually, you know what? We'll be safe and we'll put them on the inside because I'm not 100% sure if the ports, it will form if the ports are on the sides. So we'll take you and we'll put a port here, and this is where we are going to input the DT fuel from. And let's see. We'll go like this, and then we can put a port here and a port here, and then a final one here. So we're not going to have the best vision on the reactor from the front, but you know, I think we can live with that. So make do with this, and then we just grab our reactor controller, and it didn't form, so that means that we are missing an item, which is going to be our laser focus, which I mentioned before. So laser focus is right here. So this is an extremely important part of the reactor. The reactor will not start without it, because this reactor, even though you put the fuel in, you still need to kind of give it a jump start. And do we have, we do have some torches. So we'll just toss that on there so those don't go anywhere. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to input the fuel. Now, you can input the tritium and deuterium separately into the reactor, or you combine them into DT fuel and just pump the DT fuel in. So what we're going to do is we are just going to pump in the DT fuel. Let me see here. We got 3, and we're going to have to draw that from back over here. So we're going to have to kind of make an underground processing center for the lithium that we have over here and turn it into DT fuel. So let me dig a tunnel, and then we'll be right back. All right, so first things first, let's grab our separators and just toss them right there. Then we just need to grab our cables, and hopefully we can just toss these guys right here. And where is our configurator? Make sure that's in so nothing comes out once we're done. And I don't actually like this being that close. Now I'm going to separate these guys just in case. Need to add more. Now for power, we're going to be pumping these guys with energy from these stellar cables conduits, because they do 2 billion energy transfer. So yeah, I think that should get us to where we got to go. All right, so I just want to make sure that everything is getting power, because sometimes these machines can be a little bit picky on where they get power from, as evidenced by those heaters over there. Now we just need to take the different fluids out, and we'll do that by running these guys down here. And I suppose we can, I wonder if we can input from the front. All right, so what I want to do is I want to actually just start pushing the lithium in here and kind of see what happens. Mostly because of the fact that I'm not sure which side stuff is going to come out of and which sides things need to go into over here. So this guy is making deuterium and tritium, and I'm not sure if these guys are treated as gases or if they're treated as a liquid. Okay, so like I said, these machines, they're a little bit tricky. So the sides are both gas and the liquid is going into the front. So we'll just make sure that we're pulling from these. And if we look inside, it's making tritium and deuterium. So we should be able to, I wonder if we can lead this into the front here, or if it has to be from the side as well. So I guess we are going to find out. It would help if these things are, the sides were color coded in some way, shape, or form, but knowing me, they probably are. All right, well, let's take our pressurized tube and lead that into there. There we go. So these all should be getting tritium, but they're not, probably because this is full and this is just going to the first one that it possibly can. So we can actually kind of fix that just by going like this. Doesn't look pretty, but it'll do. All right, so I was right. The inputs need to go on the sides over here. I just need to grab my configurator and set this properly. All right, so items, fluids, gases. Set those guys to input. Those are the inputs. These guys are all outputs. And I believe the DT fuel is actually going to be a gas as well. Now, the only thing I don't know is, I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know if the if gas can go into a black hole tank. I'm kind of hoping that it can, but it doesn't look like it can. So what we're gonna need is, I believe Mekanism has a gas tank. Now these are not infinite by any way, shape, or form, but they'll kind of give us a gauge if we are producing enough of the DT fuel here. So let's lead our, let's see, our tubing over here. This is going to look a little bit funny, but it is what it is. So we're going to put you here and you here. And then what we're going to do is side configuration. We're going to say inputs, and we're going to, oh, that's the back, I think. Or is, I can never remember if this is the back or if that's the back. Let's try the bottom. Yep. And input, and let us output from the bottom as well. And then we can just run this all the way up to here. Mainly because I derped. I put in the wrong ports here. I put in the logic ports, even though I said earlier that we didn't need them. So yeah. Hopefully this works this time. So pressurized tube now actually works properly. And we can just lead this down and kind of do the same thing we did before. We are going to draw with you and just bring you on over here. So this should be filled up with DT fuel. If we come over to fuel here, yeah, we have plenty of DT fuel. And as you can see, I could have just pumped the deuterium and the tritium in here, and it would have made DT fuel. However, just pumping it directly in will kind of give me a better gauge of how much we're actually burning through. Now, these guys only hold 512,000 buckets apiece. At least I think that's buckets. But that is going to go in a heartbeat once we turn this guy on. Now, in order to get this to start up, we need two more things. We need a Holram. At least that's how I think you pronounce it. And let's see. This guy right here. Yeah. Yeah. Holram. That's just a little bit of gold dust and charcoal inside of a metallurgic infuser. So that's not going to be a difficult thing to make. The kind of more of a pain is going to be these lasers here, because It takes a while unless you make a whole bunch of them, and I don't really feel like making a whole bunch of them, so I'll just do a little jump scene after I get these guys set up here. 1, 2, and we'll just say 3. Then we're gonna need a laser amplifier. What are we missing? Basic energy cube. Done. We'll grab this laser amplifier and we'll kind of set these guys up. So in order to set this up, what you want to do is you want to take your amplifier and kind of set it right there. And then if we come into this, energy content, energy output is energy contents, and we want it to have a high signal, meaning that we want to be able to tell this guy when we actually fire. In order to do that, we just need to grab a button. So we'll just grab a stone button right here, and we just place him right there. And then we're going to have to set our lasers up on each side of this. So 1, 2, 3 sides. And then you can essentially just copy and paste that all the way back, depending upon how quickly you want this to form. Since obviously I'm doing this in a video and I don't have to worry about, you know, just AFKing for an hour or two while it goes up, I'm not too concerned about it. So we'll save on a few resources here, but we're going to come out 2 on each side, and our lasers are going to go right here. I'm sorry, our lasers are going to go on this block right here. So we just need to grab some of our universal cable here. Actually, you know what? We can just use the stellar flux duct, since it will produce more than enough. And we'll just make like a little outline. Now you do kind of have to be careful when you're setting these lasers up, because they can be a little bit of a pain as far as direction that you want to go. So like if I place this here, there's a good chance if I'm off by just like a millimeter, it'll shoot back, and these lasers will break blocks. So place you like that, place you like that, and they are firing, but they're not really doing anything. As you can see, it's storing a little bit of power, but not a whole heck of a lot, because these guys, they have like a little bit of an internal buffer, which got filled up on my inventory. But they also do have, they are restricted to how much energy they can actually intake, which I'll show you in a second here. So let's just grab a point, and we can just toss you on top of here and say, make sure our revving, surge mode. And this guy needs to get up to 1 billion RF before it's ready to fire. So as you can see, it's going to take a little while. Now you can, I think, take your time in the bottle and kind of speed these guys up to draw more energy and to charge us a little bit faster, but it's still going to take quite a long time, which is why when people do these, you know, especially in streams, they'll usually have, you know, at least 5 of these laser amplifiers with 3 lasers going into each one of them. So I will bring you guys back once this is all charged up. But first, let's just make ourselves a hull ROM. So we'll toss a piece of coal in, and I think it was 4 pulverized gold. Yep, and we have this. And we'll make an extra one just in case this first one fails for whatever reason here. And then we just need to fill these guys up with DT fuel, which we can do downstairs. And we fill these guys just by simply coming up to one of these machines right here and just tossing this in. So we now have a full hull ROM, and we have 2. We can just toss the second one in our system. Now back to waiting for eternity until this guy is all the way up to 1 billion RF. All right, so I got bored. I thought I could just sit here and wait. And then I realized I do need to sleep sometime tonight. So I added on 3 more of the laser amplifiers, all just pushing directly into this one, which is set to fire on a pulse. And then these extra lasers. And as you can see, it's now up to 1 million. I'm sorry, 1 billion. Now there is a few things that you need to do before you can start this reactor up. I mean, obviously you need to make sure that it's got fuel. Then you also need to make sure that it has the hull ram inside, but you also need to change the injection rate. Now, when you stop the injection rate, or when you start, the injection rate will be defaulted to, I think, like 2 or something like that. Now, in order for this reactor to run and sustain itself, it needs to at least have an injection rate of 4. So we're just going to start at 6 and kind of work our way up to make sure that we are not burning more fuel than we are producing. And I'm just going to have to kind of play around with that a bunch to try to figure out how much we're actually going to need to produce in order to keep this thing running at full bore. Because I think at full bore it should produce, I'm not even really sure. Never had it up there, but it's probably somewhere around like 25 million RF a tick or something like that, if not more. So we are going to be kind of having to play around with that, as well as playing around with how much water we can pump into it and how much steam it will pump out at what different levels to try to find that sweet spot. Because I'm hoping that we're not going to have this thing full bore in order for, you know, the steam turbine to run at full power as well, but you never really know. So let's toss our hull ram in here. Like, again, make sure that our injection rate is set. I'm not too worried about the RF and stuff that's in there. That's kind of weird that it's in there. Wonder if I had a misfire on the laser or something like that, but this shouldn't be gaining energy. So that's interesting. So we have our fuel. Let's come over here and push the button. As you can see, the reactor has started up by the little holographic display that's going on inside. Now, if we come back up to the controller here, you'll notice that the plasma is going to be just pretty much maxed out when you start it, and it will kind of slowly settle. So if you're normally running this and you're having it at a lower injection rates, this casing will kind of slowly regulate itself, as you can see here. So eventually this will go down. And see, if we take a let's grab a plug, grab you real quick, toss you on, and we'll say we'll turn this one on reactor surge mode, and we'll load the chunk. So we are currently transferring 55 million RF per tick, and that is going to kind of go down. It will kind of settle as this plasma kind of settles down in itself, but for now we are going to I'm just going to kind of let this run, do its thing, kind of regulate itself and figure out where it's comfortable working at. And then I'm going to try to slowly bump it up until we are producing just a little bit more DT fuel than we're actually eating. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know, we got pretty far this episode. We did get our evaporation towers going on. So we have brine being turned into, we have water being turned into brine, and then that brine being turned into liquid lithium. And then down below here, we have the liquid lithium being separated into deuterium and tritium, and that is being recombined into our DT fuel, which we are pumping into our reactor, which is currently empty for unknown reasons that aren't very good. But yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out off camera and let this run. Hopefully it's just a visual glitch and nothing more, but we'll see how that goes. So as always, guys, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It does help me out greatly. And as always, stay safe, be awesome, and we'll see you guys next time.